All right. Made a little mistake there. I apologize, you guys. Ran a little late. It was all on my end, too. We were actually on here. Anyway, tonight we have Freddie Bourne from Evansville, Indiana. He's from multiple places, I think. We'll let him tell about that. Last weekend was the Wadi Stock Festival. It was a really great time. If you missed it, you really missed out. There's bands down from Ohio, from northern Ohio. There was someone in from South Carolina. And of course, a lot of the local acts. It's always we'll be doing it again in either September or October. And when I get the details, I'll definitely be talking about it on here. I always do. And got to do it. Got to do this. Undergroundopolis is officially sponsored now. We're set. We've sold out, and I have to read my ad because running this show is not free. So Norwood Investments Llc is an investment center focusing on helping you become more financially independent. They will help you grow your wealth by creating a comprehensive case plan that best suits your goals. Once this is done, you will start diversifying your assets through stocks, bonds, ETFs, and much more. Norwood Investments Llc offers courses on trading stocks, bonds, options, and spreads, as well as setting up an IRA based on your risk tolerance. These courses are part of the subscription for no extra charge. Just call 757-603-7722 for a free consultation. You can also look them up on Google or Facebook. Be sure to use the sign-up code ROB. That's capital R, capital O, capital B. That's Norwood Investments LLC for all your investment needs. Woo. We're going to go ahead and bring Freddie on and get started.
What's up? What's going on?
Let's go back. That's much better.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Freddie, what was it that when did you have you been playing music your whole life or?
Wow. I think I tried. I think attempting was probably the best way to describe what I was doing. I think I started trying to play piano when I was like 4 or 5, and then I probably didn't take it seriously until I was like 10 or 11. The singing came first, and then the whole aspect of playing an instrument was super foreign and not something I wanted to do, because I saw a lot of people that were singing and playing guitar, and I wanted to kind of stand out. And so keyboard became the main instrument for me, because I didn't see a lot of people doing it when I was growing up. And so that kind of became the prime instrument. I eventually learned how to play guitar. I don't know. I guess I never found it as satisfying to play it. I thought you can Elton John it up and all that. And so I thought that the flamboyancy of the performance with a keyboard and a piano was definitely a little bit more lively, or that's at least what I was attracted to. But I would definitely say music's been around my entire life, but didn't probably take it seriously until I was 10 or 11. I was like, oh, this is actually an option. I can do music in a career type of aspiration.
So do you have any big glasses or with jewels on them or anything, or
not at the moment. All in storage right now. Yeah. Definitely have some large glasses, that's for sure. I do have questionable attire. I do take my shirt off a lot in my performances, so if anything, my thing's probably closer more to G.G. Allen, but on the light side. I don't defecate on the stage. Not yet, anyway. I don't think there's not a place for it in my act yet.
Not yet. My guest last week used to sing for the Murder Junkies for a few years.
That's why I was so excited to be on here tonight, because I respect G.G. Allen and the Murder Junkies for what they did. I know he was all about, he had a mission of I want rock and roll to be edgy, I want it to be unsafe, I don't want it to be uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong, there are things that I definitely don't agree with what G.G. Allen did, but hey, he had a vision, And you know, he went after it, and he became a legend in his own right. And so when I found out your last guest, I was like, wait a second, I'm familiar with this guest. And sure enough, yeah, because I've listened to the Murder Junkies. I've watched the documentary of G.G. Allen by Todd Phillips. Obviously, that was before his time. So, what was that?
Was it called Hated?
Yes, it was.
Hated.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was very excited that I was going to be right after this person. I was like, well, this will be a nice segue into complete different music genres and styles. Going from Murder Junkies defecating on the ground to very almost Sunshine Pop-esque piano Dan Fogelberg-esque material.
Was that Dan Fogelberg? Is he like an influence of yours?
Yeah. I got into Fogelberg later in life. It was actually when I first was like writing music. It was more Richard Marx than anything. Richard Marx wrote a lot of great pop songs, a lot of also great rock songs too, like pop rock songs. And then as I got older, listening more to that folk rock music, or folk music, I guess Dan was more considered a folk musician. And the way his songwriting was, for me, was so endearing and very attractive for someone like me trying to write more narrative stories, and him kind of putting his heart on his sleeve and not being able to be a fictionalist, and that kind of inspired me to no longer kind of try to write songs from a third point of view, I guess. It needed to come from a place of heart, and I could definitely hear that in all of his music, so it made a lot of sense. Yeah, he definitely, as I got older and started taking music more seriously, he still is a great influence. Because I didn't discover him till he was very much no longer with us. So,
well, who would you say you saw or only like even on a TV show or at a concert or anything that you saw on stage? And he's like, I want to be that guy. Who?
Yeah, I think it was actually a woman that I saw. I heard and saw music performed, and it wasn't live; it was a video. So Regina Spektor, she's been around for years, and there was one particular song called "Us," and it was actually in a movie, 500 Days of Summer, years later. But there was something, the way that she had this composition, the way that she used the piano as a main instrument, and then all the other layers were, they were kind of, there's small guitar, cello, and violin, very, very light percussion, if not any percussion at all. And then when I got into more listening to her stuff, it was just a really refreshing thing to hear solo artists doing piano type music, and then kind of going down that rabbit hole of like Keane is a big British band that used like the piano as more of a lead, definitely not as flippy floppy as Coldplay, because Coldplay kind of went back and forth between guitar and piano being main instruments. But like Regina Spektor, like when I first heard the album that Us was on, that was kind of the main influence. And then eventually Andrew McMahon of Something Corporate and Jack's Mannequin, Josiah Lemming, he was somebody that was on Idol a couple of years ago, and one of the first contestants on the show at that time that was signed by a major label without getting in the live shows. So it was a really cool thing to watch somebody that was young like myself. I was definitely younger than he was, because he was able to be on the show. And I was like very attracted to the idea of kind of standing on my own 2 feet as a piano man, but sans Elton John, kind of making it, because I think Elton John makes it cool, but I think modern, was the thought that I had, because I definitely think that it wasn't a modern thing for me to, watching Elton John, it was definitely more performance-esque, and kind of, for me, I wanted to make it more about how one would sing with emotion on stage. And Elton John has incredible, emotional songs, but a lot of people are going for the show, not going necessarily for that. But Barry Manilow's Mandy is a song that I'll still keep going back to over and over and over again. That reminds me about musicality and writing. It's just a lovely, for me, brilliant love song of just heartache and kind of this invulnerability, and that's what I particularly stand for. So it's a mixture. It's a mixture of Regina Spektor, Josiah Lemming, Keane, Barry Manilow. Great diversity. Great.
Barry Manilow's he's the man, man. He's he gets made fun of a lot, but somebody. I am stuck on Band-Aid. He wrote so many jingles and stuff. It's like,
yeah, that's how we got started. But I remember reading something, because critics did kind of get on him quite a lot, but it was actually the music industry professionals, people that were in the industry, that were giving him the kudos. I mean, Frank Sinatra, I think at one point said, "You're the next big thing." You know what I mean? And that's coming from Sinatra. I mean, you can't beat that, you know?
So, were you ever a Ben Folds fan, or?
Yeah, I got into Ben Folds and Ben Folds 5, actually just in the recent few years, actually. Cynthia, my partner, who's also a great singer-songwriter, she was a huge fan of Ben Folds 5 when she was in high school. And I knew who Ben Folds was. I had friends that went to his concerts. I had a lot of people say that I reminded me of him. They kind of acted that was a big influence of mine, because he wasn't. He was kind of someone I found after I kind of figured out what my musicality was and the type of musician I wanted to be. I knew who he was. I knew about him. I had a friend that did a songwriting camp with him directly, one-on-one. Said he was a really nice guy. I saw him on that sing-off show. I think it was on NBC or something like that, whatever the a cappella groups that come on. So, I mean, I was familiar with him, but not necessarily with the work. But as of late, I've gotten into some of the live albums. I mean, they're great. I mean, I love them. I do. So I'm slowly, not like a sold out fan yet, but I definitely respect what he's been doing and what he still does.
All right. Oh, there was one time, God, this was in the 90s. I went to a concert called the Further Festival.
Okay.
And it was basically, there was a band called Hot Tuna there. I can't remember the other band. And then there was a band called the other ones. Rusted Root. Maybe it's Rusted Root was the other band.
Rusted Root I do enjoy.
I think it was them.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, the other ones was like members of the Grateful Dead without Jerry Garcia, because he had already passed away. Their piano player that night was Bruce Hornsby. Which I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah, I do like Bruce, actually. For me, I mean, I kind of go back, like I said. For me, I have seen, like, people that I've seen live. I mean, I saw the Police live, like, on their, I guess it was considered their first Farewell World Tour. And I love that type of music, but it was just music I really enjoyed. But Josh Groban, he's more of a pop opera type singer, classically trained singer. But I mean, that guy kind of does it all. Plays drums and plays keys, and I mean, he's that was definitely when I started going, oh, that would be a cool thing. And he reminds me of Bruce a little bit. The way he the way he played on stage, at the very least. I never got into like looking up Bruce as much. I mean, he's created so many different projects that it's hard to kind of keep up on with him. So I go, oh, I could see that, at least he's been around for quite a while.
Oh yeah. How would you describe your music that you create?
Man, I mean, it's gone through. I always kind of go through these like reinvention stages a little bit. You know, I feel when I started, I think it was trying to be very pop rock and trying to find this very middle of the road mainstream thing, and trying to find songs that were very hook oriented. And then the problem with that was that a lot of these songs just kind of didn't. They lost the heart of what I was writing about. And then kind of went in the opposite direction where I was kind of completely anti-commercial for the next release. Still staying true to the piano being the main instrument. And so that was kind of more the ambient, avant-garde, experimental phase of what I was trying to go for, almost in this lo-fi spectrum, or at least sounding lo-fi, but it was still produced and still mixed and mastered. I would say probably with the more studio oriented releases as of now, I would definitely classify myself in this soft rock, folktronica, piano pop genre, more leaning on the soft rock area, because I love Journey and Steve Perry, Styx.
Oh no, the new guy. I'm just kidding, man.
But I mean, just recently, Steve Perry's album, he had an album that came out 2018, and I mean that music was very almost kind of like, it was nice to see what he was kind of doing now, close to 23 years later. And I was like, it is soft rock still, and it's kind of the same type of thing that I'm kind of going for, which is kind of blending a lot of these live instruments together. Piano's kind of taking the lead, but it's very soft vocals. It's not too aggressive. It's not too raspy. It's not overly complicated. There's a really, subtle, smooth melody. So I would say probably soft rock, with emphasis on the keyboard, definitely for me. Especially if you see me at my live shows, that you're not really getting anything but vocals and keyboard.
Yeah, but I've seen you do Purple Rain, which blows the crowd away every single time.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Prince was an influence on me, kind of just kind of keeping me on the right track of not steering away from what I've developed over I've been doing the solo thing, I would say on and off, for about 8 or 9 years, I think now. And Prince, I mean, that song, I mean, I love the song. I heard an arrangement of that before, and I kind of made it my own, so that way it has a little bit more purpose to me. And but the thing I admire the most about Prince is that no matter what was going on, he didn't really conform. If anything, he kind of set the trend. In all the eras of music, when it was between folk music and disco music or new wave music, like he was adapting to the times without actually adapting to the trends that were occurring at the moment. Like in the 80s, where there was a lot of new wave music, he kind of still found a way to put R&B and soul on the map, and that was the thing that was still getting popular for him. And I admire that so much, because people have had their theories about how he was as a musician, or not as a musician, but as he was as a person necessarily, and he never steered away from being who he was, even when people kind of had some odd things to say about him. And so him kind of staying away from the public eye as much as he did, like, that's kind of, I like that approach. I think it's difficult now, because now you are in an era where people, PR teams and people that are in the industry that had, luck with one or two people, are kind of saying, well, now you need to be overexposed. Which, back then, I mean, Prince, it was not one of those things that he was overexposed. If anything, he say relatively low key, and he let the music speak for itself. So I like to think that my overall objective is kind of similar to how Prince kind of lived his mantra. I would say that would be my mantra more or less, is to let the music kind of speak for itself. And if one person likes it, then I've done my job. To connect with one person, I've done my job. If 99 other people don't like it, I mean, if they have an impassioned reason why they don't enjoy it, that's even better. I just don't like when people just go, yeah, it's good, and they have nothing really to give you feedback on, or they said, I just don't like it. It's like, no. It's nice to hear people actually go, I don't like it because of this and this and this. And I'm like, thank you, because you actually care to give yourself 3 to 4 minutes to listen to this and go, this is what bothers me. I'm like, wow, I got inside your head. Good and bad press is still press.
Yeah, that's why I say that too, man. No such thing as bad publicity.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Oh, do you have a particular creative process?
It changes. I think there's certain I would say there's certain things that still occur that there's definitely 3 particular points in the process that still stay the same. It just depends on when they occur. My best writing has occurred taking baths a lot. So for all the viewers and listeners on this podcast that know what I look like, just envision that in a bathtub writing songs. Because I actually used to do that, though. I don't write them now physically anymore in the bathtub, but the melodies and more just words come to my head, not necessarily melodies as much anymore. But I used to have a big clipboard that I used to bring with me in the bathtub that would actually just literally almost be it looked like a big serving dish, essentially. It's like if you were eating in the bathtub. And then I'd just be able to write the songs that way, or the lyrics at least. But I mean, I always try to, with each record that I'm doing, I try to give myself a little bit of space to kind of go out and listen what's around me and kind of hear what other people are, kind of doing in their creative process. So like at open mics of oh, this is something that would be an interesting thing to tackle and look into in this type of music. I am one of those people that when people give me a suggestion of something to listen to, I do listen to it. Just because I feel that if someone is recommending that to me and it's not their own music and they're saying, go listen to this thing, I think you'll enjoy it. It shows to me that it's something that they have great care in, and definitely something I want to look into. I like to definitely I can't sit down and say I'm gonna write today. That's just not a thing that I can do, because then I feel like it's too force of a process. It has to come naturally, because I think when I've done that, I've really kind of put out songs I never put those songs out, but those songs really didn't have any not clarity and not heart necessarily, but definitely did not hit the mark enough that I was invested in it. To me, it's that's with anything writing, because I do journalism on the side for a magazine out here. So it's
yep, this for you.
Yeah. So yeah, news for you.
I've been in that magazine before.
Yeah, I've been in it a few times, and then I really just wanted to start writing. And sure enough, I knew the editor, and he was more than happy to have me write a column every month. And that's been getting a lot of good reception and press too, which has been really nice. But for me, it kind of just comes at when you least expect it, is kind of when that writing bug kind of comes out. And that's kind of how all these songs, every song that I've written has kind of been that way. Because I do see that people try to force themselves to write something, and it ends up kind of putting a lot of pressure of trying to make it good. But then it's well, now you're just trying to, try to make something out of nothing right now versus like exploring around you. So I really that's the second thing, is making sure that I'm, exploring what's around me and finding inspiration that way, but not anticipating it, not forcing it. And then, the third thing is always making sure that I can find the right producer to work with side by side, because I like to make it not a me process, but rather a Oh, I see Dylan Bean has a question. I'll answer that I'll answer that right after this. To me, it got to this place for me, like I was writing these songs out, and I kind of lost my train of thought, but I'm trying to get back on. But for the third record, for me, it's producing. So like, I know for a fact that if there's certain songs that I've written, like this last record, I knew that I wanted to be more in the commercial realm, but still with this side of not underground music, but music that is either been underappreciated over the past couple of years or influences from different countries. So I knew right off the bat who that producer was going to be, because it was someone that I knew was very in line with those thoughts. But at the same time, I didn't want that to be, me just basically directing and, and saying this, and this. Because I have been in an experience where I've been so close-minded, and it kind of sucks because obviously they're kind of only doing what you're asking them to do, and they're just doing it for the money, because they're like, I'll do whatever you want if you just pay me the X amount of money. And I've been thankful that I haven't had to do that many times in my career. Every time that I've done it, I've paid very little, and I've had complete creative control. But I've been in situations with, projects that I've started but never finished, as solo, without bringing anyone else on board. And that to me was always a discouraging thing, was, kind of taking the lead and then not really getting any feedback, and just kind of going, is this good? Is this good? Is this good? And then asking their input, and they really wouldn't have anything. So I really always value the producer's input, with every project that I'm doing, because it's just as much my project as it is theirs, because at the end of the day, they're putting their name on it. And if it's not good, it might damage my reputation as a musician, but it damages their reputation as a producer for not catching certain things or allowing things to happen. So I always make sure those are the three crucial things: are taking baths, because that definitely helps for me. It's observing the world around me and not and allowing things in, as opposed to forcing them or anticipating them. And then making sure that when I have these songs written, or I'm visioning these songs, that I find the right person that I can be in line with in terms of producing the music to the best quality that it can, to get the messages and the music across in the best way. So yeah, I'll answer Dylan's question. What was your very first song, and do you still like it? Ooh. Well, first off, Dylan, congratulations. I know you played Wadi Stock this past weekend. I was not invited this year, even though I was last year. Didn't get to play. What up with that, Ed? Call me. No, I wanted to play last year. I didn't get a chance to because of COVID. And Ed and I kind of just reconnected. So I feel like I was just not in that realm. But congratulations, though. I'm really happy to see that you did it. The confidence and you're looking great, by the way, Dylan. You definitely been shedding quite a lot of lbs. For me, the first song I ever wrote was Dark Little Room, actually, what you were playing in the intro, Rob. When Dark Little Room actually came out back in 2013, it's actually an album. It's actually on the album Only Human, and it's actually called Push Away. So it was actually a different title, but it's the same lyrics. Nothing changed lyrically. And when I got old, when I was getting older and I was on a different label with a different producer, you know, I played that song for him live when we were just kind of chit chatting, because him and I were really good friends. We still are good friends. And he goes, he's like, did you just write that? I was like, no, I've had this song for years. And he goes, he's like, produce that. And I was like, it's actually out. But I always felt that song back then, I didn't take a lot of artistic liberties to make that song really what it could become. And then when we talked about it, he was more than happy to reconstruct it with me. Nothing really changed. Everything stayed pretty much the same in terms of lyrics and the chord progression, but it was more of making it sound what it could have became a couple years ago. So I was very happy about that. And it was the first song I wrote that I had Upmost, that I wrote in full. I think I was like 17 or 18 when I wrote it. And I was, for myself anyway, and I still love playing it. I still love playing that song. It's still one of my favorite songs to play, especially now more than ever, because that song is about, it was about isolation, and I think particularly this past calendar year of 2020, isolation was a really big theme for a lot of people, and so it's taking quite a lot of different meanings to me and to a lot of different people, because it definitely speaks out a little bit more. But I was in bands before that, and I wrote lyrics for that, not necessarily the music, but definitely the lyrics. And I mean, I don't really play any of those songs because it's just one of those things in history that I kind of just want to focus on myself in the future. So I refrain from playing those songs simply because it just brings back off memories.
Thank you for your question, Dylan.
Yeah, thank you, Dylan.
Let's see. What was your what would you say was your favorite show you ever played?
Ooh.
I love this question.
It's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one. I'll give you like a third place and a second place, and then I'll give you my last one. I think the last one will surprise you, because thinking in my head, I had two that really just like came at the forefront, but then I know right off the bat which one I'm gonna say. So like my third place, I was playing out. It was like right before I moved out of Jersey the first time. I had a friend, Diane, who was interning with the Special Olympics, and at that time it was she reached out to me in 2013 for the 2014 Special Olympics. The National Special Olympics, the actual national games, were going to be in Jersey that year. So I was like, ooh. She was like, I would love you to play. Now, keep in mind, Diane and I didn't talk for like 4 years because we went to two different colleges. We were friends in high school. So it was really nice to see her, reach out to me. And it's like, hey, I've been still following your stuff. I know an album just came out, because at that time my album did come out. So she was like, love you to play. And so we were like I was so excited because Special Olympics was such a big thing to my mom, especially to my grandfather. My grandfather was the Special Olympics coach for gymnastics for many, many years. And so I felt that it was a big testament to be a part of that in tribute to him. And it was a lovely show. It was smack in the middle of the day, and there was activity still going on. But I mean, there was a small crowd that came out that really watched it, and so I was really blessed to be a part of something like that. And yeah, it was definitely something, especially the National Special Olympics. So I was like, just very, very excited that I was able to be a part of something that big, on that type of scale. My second, I mean, I when I moved out to Hoboken, when I started grad school, I finished grad school, I was living out in Hoboken. So about, right, Frank Sinatra grew up there, and a lot of great, great history. And at that time, I was thankful enough that the music scene was actually, they were kind of cleaning it up. They were cleaning up Hoboken, and they were really a lot of, kind of gentrifying it a little bit like Brooklyn was. A lot of families were moving to Hoboken, small kids and new parents. And, so it was nice to kind of be there when they were improving overall. And then the music scene was also really thriving, and venues were getting reopened. So the big place for me was Maxwell's Tavern, or Maxwell's. Nirvana played one of their first few shows there. Springsteen recorded Glory Days music video there at Maxwell's. A lot of great bands played there and got their start there. Especially with with Nirvana. I mean, that's the fact to go on the same stage as Nirvana, you really can't beat that, And I've played the Stone Pony, and I've played, that were Bon Jovi and Springsteen, got their starts there at the Stone Pony, and I played Starland Ballroom, where a lot of great musicians that have come from internationally to kind of make their debuts in the States. And still people that I grew up with are playing the Starland. But I mean, for me, Maxwell's, because it was like there was so much history, and such a legendary city in New Jersey, and to be able to actually do a EP, my own EP release at this venue in front of like 75 to 100 people that didn't know who I was and just showed up because there was other people before that they were supporting, and they stayed for this whole thing. It was fantastic. I mean, it was the first time that my friends even told me that went out. They're like, this is the best we've heard you. And that kind of leads me into the first show, my best show that I ever done. So the EP release, to give some backstory, was called I Wrote These Songs That Heavy Vibes at a Piano. And I wrote it, I wrote it all, like the story says, I wrote it when I was in my keyboard back in my father's house before I moved back to grad school. I was dealing with the death of my mom, and really kind of going through the grieving process pretty heavily for 2 years. And for me, I was recording another album, and then had a nervous breakdown, emotional breakdown, realized that I wasn't able to do these songs, because the songs, I was trying way too much to put a fake narrative to it and not my own story, because I was too afraid to overexpose myself and make people concerned. And I wasn't big on dealing with depression and those types of feelings. And so when it was like one of the last shows before I stopped music for about a year and a half, writing and everything, I started, I was already planning to go on this public access television show out in Princeton, right outside Princeton University downtown. And they record it, and they don't edit or anything. It's done on camcorder, and then they put it on about 2 weeks later on public access. They don't really chop anything up. It goes straight through. So you're watching the whole show as if it was done. And I was on my last song of the night, and I did a song that was dedicated to my mother. And I just immediately started crying, just in front of all these random strangers and the production crew, and it was tough. And so but that was the first time when I finished that show and people came up to me, and it wasn't this pity party, that is what music is about. And my guitar player that was with me that night, because I had him play a couple of songs with me, said, by far, not only was that like the best show that I've ever seen you do, that is like one of the best shows I've ever played. Because for the first time, I saw somebody standing up for what they are all about, and he's like, you can no longer retreat back to this whole, you know, this narrative that you've been trying to create, because this is what people are going to be more attracted to, and this is what the people want. And he's like, I'm pretty sure this is what you want too. And that was kind of the turning point, was that show where I broke down on camera, and it's still out there. And I remember I haven't been able to watch it back. But my family saw it about a couple months later. I gave them the DVD of it, and my dad, I don't think he was realizing how much I was hurting until he saw that show. But he said the same thing. He goes, I think this is the type of direction you need to go now, because I think that people are, we have a lot of fake people in the world. I don't think we need to add, more negative toxicity to the world. I think we need some truth. And it's been ever since then, I just make sure that what I'm writing is of truth and not of I wouldn't say necessarily, fantasy, but, it's okay to talk about the dark things. You need to have some light, but write what you know. That was a big thing for me, and so I put that definitely in my number one, even though the other one sounded a lot more glamorous. But that was by far public access, Princeton television, crying on my fourth song. Best show.
Yeah. But when you make somebody feel what you feel, that changes the way you start writing and everything else too.
Yeah, it definitely shaped the whole idea of why I was doing this to begin with. I think I was doing all of this because I liked doing it. But then I think the more attention that you were getting, then you thrive on that attention. So you're like, oh, I want more of this. And then when I was at my lowest, I realized that I'm like, but I don't really want this. I don't want that. And when I started going and doing songs for what was from here and doing it from, this is how I'm feeling, this is what's going on in my head, and very similar to what Daniel Johnston did. He wrote about, you knew listening to his stuff, this is what I'm afraid of, and this is what makes me happy, this is what scares me, this is what I love. And there's such a realness to that, and that's what makes it attractive. And I think that's what made Daniel Johnston so attractive to people, because by far he wasn't the most talented guitar player, he wasn't the most talented vocalist, but there was this honesty that I think people really not only respected but admired, for someone also dealing with so many mental ailments. You cannot, the fact that he has to go on stage and thousands of people and the crap he's getting, he's like, I'm just going to keep going because this is all I know. And I felt that eventually, that's kind of what I was going for. I was like, this is really all I know are these feelings and these stories, and that's okay. If they want to listen, great. If they don't, it's no harm, no foul on me. There's other great musicians out there for them to listen to. I'm just one of a couple million.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the counter question to the last question would be, what's your least favorite show? And I love this question too, just for that reaction I get.
There's so many. There are so many bad shows that I've had that I try my best to completely forget them. I definitely think yes. I wasn't solo. Because I don't think I've had any necessarily bad shows yet being solo, or at least not shows that I would definitely go, oh my God, this was a train wreck. But I was in this band many moons ago, back in 2000, and the show happened in 2007 or 2008, one of those two. And we were like one of the last few bands left of the night, and which meant that they had some promise for us that we were going to be good, especially because so many people were coming for the last band, that we were like, it was kind of a lot of pressure. The band, we didn't play a whole lot of live shows at different venues. I think we played at that point 3 or 4 different venues in rotation, probably less. I was in another band at the same time where we were playing a lot of venues and played Starland and Stone Pony. And at this point, this band wasn't really there yet. I mean, we were together for a year before we had our first real show, versus the other band. I was with them for like 2 or 3 months, and then it was just show after show after show after show. So with this particular band, we were just still very rough. We were very good friends. And I think that's what was helpful when it came to our performances, was that we were very, very, funny, very humorous with each other, had a lot of personality. But this particular show, we were all on edge, all for very different reasons. It was the first show that my then girlfriend at the time came out to for this band. We had no real rehearsal going on. And it was just a maddening, terrible, drummer had issues with his drum set was out of tune and really need to tighten them up. Our bass player at that point, I don't think we were with him. He was with us the entire time when the band was together, but I think he missed a few practices because he did have a job that he had to go to, which we very much understood. I think both guitar players, so we had 2 guitar players, I think both of them broke a string in the middle of the show. And then, so just trying to be as professional as we can, you try to continue moving on with the show. But it was a very inevitable, like, this was turning into train wreck. So, all of a sudden the songs, the syncopation and the timing of the songs were just getting everywhere. And I'm like, what are we doing? So yeah, definitely that would definitely resonate in my mind as the worst show. But we did get better. We did eventually play Stone Pony. We did become, eventually our personalities and the way we were on stage did eventually translate into the music, which was definitely a very good thing. But the music also wasn't really my style. I mean, the lead, I wasn't writing for this band as I was the other one. I was writing a lot of lyrics for the other band. This band, it was primarily, the songwriter was the lead guitar player, but he didn't sing. And so, but he was very into the Ramones and to a lot of that punk rock, and that was definitely not my flavor. And especially my voice is not really that flavor either. We're still close. He actually wrote a song for me. Well, he wrote a song we did together in that band that was on my first album. And he actually came up when I was recording that album. He actually drove up. He moved to Delaware when he was going to school at the time. And just straight up, I called him. I said, out of curiosity, like, I just wanted to see, I get your permission to do the song. He goes, absolutely. And I said, I would like to ask if you'd like to play on it, since it is your song at the very least. And he goes, yeah. And then he's like, I'll come up. I'll come up tomorrow. And I was like, from Delaware? He goes, yeah. And so that's what he did. He showed up, like, drove 3.5 hours to come up and record, hung out for a little bit, and then just drove right back home. So, I mean, it's still a very good friend of mine. But yeah, it was definitely a rough time. And I think it was just one of those days where we were in high school. A lot of us were going through particularly college acceptances and trying to get into college, and a lot of girlfriend issues, definitely, and a lot of ghosting from girls was a big thing for us. So yeah, we were a little, we really couldn't hide that in the professional setting, because we just let that pretty much ooze on stage, all of the problems that we had. But it got better. It got better. I think it upset me more. It upset me more that it was like 4 or 5 shows in, and you think with each show you get better, and that was like basically like, oh my god, now we're taking like 4 steps back because this was god awful. I also couldn't sing that night either. My voice was shot as well. And so I feel like we just need to probably just not, we should have just canceled the show with everything going on. But, the show must go on. And at that point, I couldn't explain, sorry, we're not good tonight. Like I wasn't at that point because I was so overprotective of the brand of, we can't make it look like, we can't say that we suck tonight. That's the last thing you could say. Now I don't care. Now I just tell people, I'm like, tonight's gonna be rough. It's gonna be a rough one tonight. So,
well, you got 4 albums out. You're a journalist now. Do you plan on writing a book?
Someone, actually, my guitar player, the guitar player that I played my favorite show at, actually, he did. He's told me quite a few times to write a book, just about my experiences in life. Going from being a musician and finding some fame in very odd ways, to the fact that I have a master's degree and, worked in educational leadership and worked in college level and did that for a couple of years and was a teacher and then an autism therapist and also a janitor. Like I've kind of done all the trades of, people think about working your way up. I'm like, no, I wasn't really working my way up. I became a janitor because I liked that job because it was a hardworking job and I just needed time to reflect on my life at the time. And I really want to give 110 in a lot. I mean, I did radio broadcasting, I worked in television production, still do work in television production. So, I mean, I've thought about writing a book, especially now reading books from, comedians, and I can tell like they write them because some of them you could tell when you see their cadence and how they are on stage and how it translates to the page. You're like, oh yeah, I've been reading, I read Chris Gethard's book. He's a comedian from Jersey. It was called Lose Well, and that really inspired me actually to kind of take chances a little bit more this coming year. And then I just started Bert Kreischer's book. I'm trying my best to kind of get my head wrapped around it because to me, I can hear him speaking it, but like the stories are just kind of like right now, like I can't completely wrap my head around it because like to me, it's just coming off almost kind of like a comedy act right now in the book. Like a lot of like trying to be too jokey. So I think I would like to write a book as long as I can find the right voice. Because I think in these articles I'm doing for News for You, I think people have been, the attention that I've gotten for that in public has been kind of like the 180 of like what I'm known for, which is to be this very, I hope, or at least they tell me, very good musician, very great singer, good piano player, strong voice. But then also doesn't take myself too seriously, cracks a lot of jokes, very sarcastic, especially my banter, because obviously it's very difficult to go from being on the keyboard and then, they kind of know what they're already getting. So you want to kind of know that they're getting something out of it, which is why I do the way that I promote my shows is kind of very different than what other people do. But then when I write these entries, it's like almost like I for them, it's almost like, man, this is like a different person writing this, like very academic and very serious and larger words. And so I think I just want to find a balance of my writing voice to find a good balance between what my personality is and while still being able to heed to, being in a way of an academic, which is what I'm, but I like to think that I am to an extent. But I don't know what I would write about, I wouldn't want the autobiography of me would be very long, but it also I think would be relatively not uninteresting, but I think I would rather write something that was like what Chris Gethard is, which is about like losing and then just still like continuing to lose until you're like, I give in on the losing. How do I win? Or like losing and losing and losing and just knowing that like you can lose 10 times, but you might win that 10th time. And that's all, that's what matters. So I want to find a book like that, not necessarily self-help or maybe motivational, but like, I would like to write a book. That would be a good thing. What do you think I should write about? What would your first thought be?
Maybe self-help.
Self-help would be, I guess. I was gonna say I can analyze your song "Spank Like a Nun." Whole story. I was listening to that, by the way. I've been listening to that on repeat with along with War Children. Very contrasting songs to say the least, but Spank Like a Nun is to me, it's because it sounds so sincere. Like listening to the beginning of the song and the way you deliver the lyrics, and you're like, oh, this is getting, you're like, this could be a really sad song, and then you get there and you're like, it was very perplexing. But at the same time, I still feel sad. Like I still feel like kind of sucks that he got spanked. Like that's so bad. But then just lyrically, as the lyrics go on, you're just like, oh, I'm slowly getting out of this, like finding this funny. I also listen to it.
I appreciate it.
Oh yeah.
What got anything? We're running out of time here. What got anything you got want to plug in? Like where you're playing next?
Oh yeah, very good. Yeah. Well, this weekend it's all over the place. Yeah. So I'm playing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Whenever y'all are watching or listening to this, but I'll give the dates just in case people are like listening to this months later and they're go, oh, he's there Friday and Saturday. It's like, yeah, a couple months ago. This Friday, I'll be with my good friend Brandon McCarty in downtown Evansville at a restaurant called Madeline's Fusion, and it's great food there. That starts at 6:00 downtown Evansville, Indiana, and then Brandon and I are going to be taking a road trip to Marion, Indiana. So it's about a 4-hour drive from here at the place called The Kingdom. My good friend Bobby owns and runs that place. They just opened last January. So they've only been, they're about a year and a half old now. It's a great venue. I really enjoy the community there. So we'll be there on Saturday. That'll be Madeline's Fusion's on Friday, May 21st. The Kingdom is on May 22nd, Saturday, May 22nd. That's going to be start time of 7:00. And then I will be at Uncool Randy's Sunday Night Live at the 21st. I'm under the impression it's 21st in Germantown is how it's being advertised, or 21st Amendment Tavern.
Yeah, it's called 21st in Germantown now.
Okay.
Somebody got upset about it being called 21st Amendment.
My advertisement that I'm making for it says Germantown, so thank you for the check mark of verifying that before I had to redo that. So I'll be the featured musician act for the night at 21st in Germantown at Sunday Night Live for Uncle Randy's open mic, which you used to take over and did a fantastic job with. And I've been there since Randy's done it. He's also doing a fantastic job.
Yes, he is.
I'll be there. So that's Sunday, May 23rd. Showtime starts at 6. I would imagine I'm going to go sometime at 6 or later on. I don't think I'm closing the night because I'm not a local. I haven't really found out many details of when. I just know I'm going to get there the time that it starts. Because I also won't be in a rush like I was the last time, because I had to message him the first time I went, just to kind of like show my face and be like, hey, we're coming from Evansville. We have a rehearsal till 4, which means it's going to be 5 hours your time. So we won't get there till probably a little bit after the show times, the start of the show time. So, but yeah, that's really all I got with going on. And then I'm working on season 2 of our variety show, talk show, Lifestyles After Dark. That'll be premiering on June 11th on the second season. That'll be on YouTube. Actually, you're looking at the set of the show right now. This is actually where we film it, on our lovely porch area, and then we got a stage over there for the performers. And again, we do it all outside. We started during COVID last year when we found out that COVID wasn't going to be able to be transmitted in outside until the CDC said otherwise. But thankfully, by that point, we were done with our first season. So yeah, and so that'll be fun. So the first season's out on YouTube now. Just look up Lifestyles After Dark, and that's where you'll find it. And we got some cool people. We had a filmmaker on there a couple years ago that's done a lot of great actual internationally known films, which was nice. So we're kind of, stirring the pot a little bit now. It's really all I got. Oh, I'll plug my girlfriend, Cynthia Murray. Had a song come out in January. It's called Home, and I'm really proud of her. It's her first solo single release. She was in a band called OCLR for many years, and that's being able to be found. But I'm happy because she's able to do her own thing and find her own voice with this single. And it's I think it's a really fantastic song, and it touches. I know a lot of people have been touched by the song, and I know it's very odd to promote something that is 5 months close to 6 months removed. But I love her, and that's it's just my little thing to listen to home. So if you don't go to any of my shows and you don't watch the show, I would just ask you to listen to home, to give her that fraction of a penny that she can put into her bank account.
And Spotify.
On Spotify.
Thank you so much. Be sure, just in case you didn't know, if you're listening to this, we did do this live. You can still watch the video in its entirety on YouTube and probably on Facebook still. And it might, who knows? Sometimes I upload these to Instagram. But be sure to follow Freddie Bourne on all his social medias. You do have a Bandcamp or anything, right?
I do have a Bandcamp. I haven't used it in quite a few years, but definitely the one thing I'm glad you brought that up. I have this fan page that I have. It's Freddie Bourne. I've made my actual profile public. I like, similarly what I was talking to you before about the honesty piece and being transparent. Like all that stuff goes on to my personal page, and so I like having people actually get to know me and not the celebrity Freddie. So if you are wanting to follow me and have the most up-to-date news, I'll just friend me or follow me as Freddie Bourne on Facebook, not the band page, but my personal page. I think currently it looks like it's me and my girlfriend and our dog, who's a 2-year-old Frenchton, posing for a picture. So that's what it looks like now. Very professional for musicians. Yeah. But yeah, definitely feel free to friend me that way, because I was actually on Great Day Live out where y'all are at, and I told people to do that, and I didn't know the day that it aired, and so I woke up to like 4 or 5 different messages from random strangers like, hey, you said on the broadcast to add you as a friend, and I can't, so I just figured to message you to let you know. And they would tell me how the music really touched them, which was really, really great. But yeah, just don't be a stranger. Just tell me hey, I listened to you on this podcast, and just figured to do my due diligence. And I'd be like, great, sounds good.
All right, thank you so much for donating your time.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
If you haven't followed or liked or subscribed to Undergroundopolis on Facebook or I had an Instagram, but it got hacked and I can't get back in it now. So I'm trying to build another one, but it keeps saying, nope, you can't. Somebody's using that name. So yeah, somebody got me good. Yeah. And subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Spotify, Google Podcasts. Breaker, Radio Public, and we're now on Amazon, which I'm completely ecstatic about being on Amazon. I don't know why. Why I got so thrilled when I finally got on Amazon. I was like, yes.
Yeah, That's the pinnacle. That's the pinnacle of making it right there. Next to Wikipedia, that's the second best thing, I believe.
I know, everybody have a good night. Thank you, Freddie. We're signing off. Hang on a second.